Hey, MBA hopefuls, we are on the air with MBA Waves, your weekly vidcast talking all things business and education, streaming live every Tuesday on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. Today, we'll be talking to Cornell University's Johnson Graduate School of Management. And on this 113th episode, we're going to learn just what an Ivy League MBA can do for your career, get to know Cornell's brand new campus in the heart of New York City, and learn about the portfolio of MBAs and other graduate programs Cornell has to offer. Please don't forget to click the like button if you enjoyed this week's episode, and be sure to click subscribe for tons of free tips and to get up close and personal with the world's top-ranked business schools. I'm your host for today, Eric Lucrezia, joined by my co-hosts Bara Sapir and Krithika Srinivasan. How are you guys doing?
Great. Amazing. Great to see everybody.
Awesome. And we have 4 guests joining us today from Cornell. We have Eddie Asbie, who's been at Cornell for over 10 years and currently the Executive Director of Admissions and Scholarship. We have Stephanie Cainto, I'm trying to pronounce your name, who is an alumna from the 2-year full-time MBA, another alum named Alex Albarracin, an alumnus from the Master's in Real Estate, and finally, Albert Matlock, who's a current student in the full-time 2-year program. Welcome to MBA Waves, everyone. Eddie, I know you guys have just had a big welcome for the new intake this weekend. How'd it go?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, Eric, thanks so much for your time. And I'm really excited to be here on MBA Waves. Yes, this has been a unbelievable couple of days. We've just enrolled our MBA class of 2025, which has been an unbelievable experience the last couple of days with students coming from so many different countries. Of course, extremely grateful for this opportunity to be a part of a program like Johnson here at Cornell University. But also it's been really rewarding from the admission side to really be able to kind of see the work that we've done throughout this past year to bring in such a diverse and exciting class. So thanks so much for asking about that. But happy to share more if you have any questions about the incoming class.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I used to work on your side of things, on the university side. I know that week is super intense, but also full of excitement and joy. And you get to see all the people you've been working with to get admitted finally on campus and integrated onto, part of the student body and the community. Alex and Stephanie, you guys have just graduated, I believe, this year. First of all, congratulations. How were the festivities?
Stephanie probably parties more than I do, so I'll let her start.
You can start, Steph.
Oh, it's been great. It's kind of crazy that the 2 years has flown by. It's been incredible. And I just saw the post about the class of 25 starting, and I'm very jealous that they have the 2 years ahead of them.
I'm not that jealous. I actually bought a house in Ithaca at Cornell, so I have no plans of actually being too far away from campus. So,
wow, congratulations!
Ithaca is so beautiful and so cold.
No, it is gorgeous. Take it away,
right?
Krithika.
So Eddie, to start us off, first of all, I have to say that the new Cornell Tech campus on Roosevelt Island in New York City, simply stunning and gorgeous. It was truly a privilege to have Cornell hostess for the annual EGA conference last June. So thank you so much again for being such a gracious host. And that said, what are some of the new and exciting things happening on both the Cornell campuses this year?
Yeah, absolutely. And just so that everyone knows from this audience, so within my role, of course, I'm the Executive Director of Admissions for the 2-year residential program in Ithaca. And of course, we have a wonderful campus at Cornell Tech in Ithaca, or Cornell Tech on Roosevelt Island in New York City. So, a lot of the things that I will highlight, of course, will probably focus more on the 2-year program. But when I think about some of the exciting things that are happening, and just talking about maybe a little bit more about the collaboration between Cornell Tech as well as the 2-year program, we do have through various options, especially if you're looking to do a 2-year MBA program where you can also take advantage of the tech campus. We have our 1+1 program, which I'm really excited to highlight, which gives you the opportunity of doing 1 full year here in Ithaca, home base, but then also a full year in New York City, focusing on the Cornell Tech curriculum as well. One of the things I think you need to kind of keep in mind, and of course, I'm happy to talk about the difference between both programs, but with Cornell Tech in particular, they are looking for students with a tech background or has that digital-based experience along with full-time experience, and who are looking to really bridge the gap between the digital economy as well as business as well. So from our 2-year side, once again, we do have a 1+1 program. If you are looking at applying this year in the application, we do ask that question, are you looking at a 1+1 program? And once again, your goals should really focus on how bridging the gap between business and the digital economy. Another option that we offer are 2 intensives. One is a fintech intensive, and then also it's been renamed to Cultural and Media Intensive, which was formerly known as the Digital Marketing Intensive, which I know that Steph has taken advantage of these intensives as well, which I know can talk about a little bit later. But then also there is an opportunity for one of our fall weekend courses where you have the opportunity of taking advantage of a weekend, Friday, Saturday elective courses over at Cornell Tech. So 3 different options there. Other things that I'm excited about, we do have a new immersion. So as we talk about our program and we talk about some of the highlights of our program, we talk about our immersion learning program, and we just launched our management consulting immersion that gives you the opportunity of really immersing yourself into the consulting space, but also really designed to prepare you for that summer internship, which I do believe the immersion is something that's great for those who are career switchers. So I'll stop there as far as some of the updates, but just know that Johnson and Cornell offers so much, and there's a lot of great flexibility in our program, even outside of the MBA side of things.
Thanks, Eddie. Alex, coming back to you for a second, maybe you could share a little bit about your experience in the real estate master's that, as I understand, you just graduated from, and you actually completed an MBA previously and had been successfully working. But for you, it was still interesting to go for this very specialized master's degree. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey, why you chose to go this route, and what it's done for your career?
Yeah, happy to do so. So first and foremost, I met Eddie way more than just a few months ago or a year ago. I met Eddie before he was actually like the executive director, and I really thought about where I wanted to go for a master's or just higher level education. So my 2 families, I'm born and raised in New Jersey. All of my family's like down in South Florida, the Miami area. And that's sort of like where I plan on being sort of for the rest of my life, right? Outside of my house here in the Finger Lakes in Ithaca. And that's just to keep relations with the Cornell University. But having said that, I went to go get an MBA in Miami specifically because it was more of the network that I was looking for that goes between New York and Miami. So there's a big overlap, as you probably know, between the people that live in New York or born in New York and live in Miami. But Cornell was sort of like that. Okay, I want a Ivy League. I want a global network. I want a strong network. And that's sort of, not to downplay anything else, but Cornell is that, top of the line education where you're working on your IQ, your EQ, your leadership. It's world renowned. And when I went to understand what it is that Cornell sort of top down their motto, their ethos of any person, any study, I really dug into that. And I went to a lot of schools. I went to over maybe 4 or 5 years that I was like actually going around campus to campus, call it Harvard, call it Stanford, call it Columbia, call it Dartmouth, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I did that for years because I wanted to get it right. And I did. And Cornell allowed me to really dig into what I like to say. I showed Cornell love and Cornell showed me love back. And I did that at every single school. I showed a ton of love by reaching out, by trying to get involved with people. But at the same time, Cornell was the one that just came back to me, especially like Eddie, first person I met, biggest open guy that I've ever met in the process, you know, the admissions process. He was very knowledgeable. He was very, 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 very happy to have me. And I still think he is. So it's sort of like that community. And that's why the Financial Times, I think, I'm not sure what the ranking was specifically, but it ranked like the Cornell MBA program, I think, #1 alumni network. And that's what I was looking for. So just to put it to you very simply, the college, there's the SC Johnson College of Business. The SC Johnson College of Business is composed of the Dyson School, the Hotel School, and the Johnson School. And by being part of like specifically what I like, coming from a real estate family, and I have a real estate portfolio that I want to expand and do specifically, well, Cornell not only allowed me to kind of go into and dig into real estate, which Albert is also just doing it the reverse. He's on the MBA side and doing a lot of the Masters of Real Estate classes. I was on the Master of Real Estate classes and going but taking advantage of all of the different schools of Johnson, of Dyson, of the Hotel School, because it cuts across interdisciplinary and everything is open to you. So long story short, Cornell is the place where you could do whatever you want, whatever your heart pleases, and it shows you love back.
Thanks for that answer, Alex. You know, I have to say on the surface, it sounds kind of confusing at first, but actually it sounds like a really powerful model where, like, as you say, it cuts across the 3 schools and it's kind of like the triangulation of all those things to draw upon, as well as those various groups of alumni that you can leverage for your career. That's amazing. Bara, why don't you take away the next question for Stephanie? I think you're on mute.
Sorry about that. So wanted to just hear a little bit from you, Stephanie, about your experience in the program choice that you went through, if you can go through that.
Absolutely. And I had to double check that I was unmuted as well. So I took a little bit of a different route from Albert and Alex. My specialty while I was going through the MBA was on sustainability specifically. And so beyond kind of wanting to get a really top tier program, to Alex's point, that is recognized across the globe, I also really wanted to look to make an impact with my MBA. And so I took advantage of some of the programs that Eddie had mentioned earlier, such as the intensive, as well as an immersion focused on sustainability. And I had an incredible experience being able to tap into those resources. And to Alex's point, I actually was able to tap into even greater than SC Johnson. I tapped into a lot of the other schools. So I met a lot of people that were in the Masters of Public Policy, Masters of City and Regional Planning, that were also focused on sustainability. That enabled me to actually broaden my network even further. So a really great opportunity there. And I really enjoyed my experience from that perspective, where I was able to customize what I was looking for based on everything that Johnson and the greater Cornell community has to offer.
Well, yeah, if you're excited about this new class coming in and so excited for them and slightly jealous, you know, it definitely speaks volumes of your experience for sure.
Absolutely.
So why don't we ask the same question to Albert? I mean, you're in the same program that Stephanie's just graduated from. You are graduating next year.
Yes.
So this time next year, you'll be right in Stephanie's position. Same question. Like, what was your journey about? What made you choose Cornell and how's it going so far?
So I think my journey was very focused around people. A lot of people that were in my immediate group of friends were very forward thinking about entrepreneurship, about business school, and being around the right people tends to inspire you, tends to connect you. You start to connect the dots. And one of my mentors actually went to Johnson ahead of me, and he talked so highly about the experience there, and it really made me want to look a little bit deeper into the culture, into Cornell as a whole. And as I started to unpeel the conversations with people, I had as many conversations similar to what Alex mentioned, have as many conversations as possible with the students, with the alumni, to kind of get a feel for the DNA of the school, the culture, the people. And that's what inspired me. I knew that if you could come to a school or a university with this caliber of education, experience, professors, teachers, the whole institute provides access to opportunity. And I felt like long as I could get my foot in the door and I could see what was available to me, I would be able to leverage that and would be able to add value to the university as well. So I know one of the things that I told Eddie when I came in is like, the school is known for banking. The school is known for consulting. Is there flexibility? Is there opportunity for individuals that might take a different path? And my path was entrepreneurship and real estate. So before coming to business school, I was working in the affordable housing space as an underwriter for the New York State Housing Finance Agency. So I got to see a lot on that end, but it allowed me to see that, one, I was managing a lot of projects, and I realized that business school allows you to manage businesses, people. And half the battle when it comes to business is understanding, whether it be negotiating, whether it be determining contracts, is understanding people. So I feel like there was another level of just understanding that I desire, and business school provided that platform for me to do so. So that was kind of like the motivation behind business school. And since I've gotten here, when I tell you I've been able to see so much and be able to understand how the inner workings of all businesses work from a strategy standpoint, whether it be just from a financial, just looking at the books and making sure you understand the M&A, the M&A and all the transactions that are taking place. Those are the things that I never would have expected to learn prior to business school, but I'm glad that I've been able to kind of garner that. So hopefully that answers a little bit of your question, but I definitely look forward to speaking more about my experience.
Yeah, it does. Actually, you made me think of something, your focus, your interest in entrepreneurship, right? This is something that me as a former director of recruitment at a business school in France, on the road at those MBA fairs all over the place, I would say maybe like 25, 30% of the people I met were interested in entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And that number whittles down to very few in reality who actually go for a program with a focus on entrepreneurship. I think the idea is very attractive of being your own boss, but it's very, very hard. It takes a lot of chutzpah. It requires investment, right?
Yeah.
And when you're about to drop X tens of thousands of dollars or euros or whatever on an MBA program, you're about to go into debt and you don't exactly have the capital to invest in this business.
Yeah.
Also, some people would say, well, it doesn't make sense to do an MBA when this is about kind of gaining the skills to work in the corporate world. You're supposed to be starting something different, something new, something innovative that is kind of bucking the system, right? So what are your thoughts about doing a degree in entrepreneurship, and what have you learned? What have you taken away so far from the Cornell experience about it?
So I'm really glad you caught that. I'm glad you kind of made that distinction, because I think that that's something that when I came into it, I was like, so I ran a small business. I've been running a small business for the last 5 years, a plant-based soap company. And I remember telling Eddie about it. And I'm like, man, I want to grow this thing. I want it to be sustainable, where that's not my focus point. And I can still focus on building my portfolio in real estate. And one of the things that he kind of encouraged me, he's like, there's so many resources here that you could tap into that allows you to kind of scale what you're doing. And I'm like, okay. So I started looking into the opportunities, and they have something called the E-Lab, which is like an entrepreneurship lab on campus, which was the first thing that I joined when I got to school. You had to put an application in, you submit kind of like your business model, your business plan, and you pitch to a couple judges that accept you into this cohort of entrepreneurs on campus. And they're from all over the school: engineering school, architecture school, design. We even had some people that were studying to be medical people, but they were in this organization. So once I got planted in there, I got to see, and we actually got to pitch in New York City to a bunch of investors, which was an amazing experience for me, understanding how to dwindle down your pitch to 1 minute, how to share your story, your business model, and for people to be able to digest that within a short period of time. So I think those experiences really helped me. But it also allowed me to see, so my immersion that Eddie was mentioning earlier, which is super important, it's a part of the DNA of the school. And so in your first year, your first semester, you're taking all your core. You think of finance, think of all, strategy, accounting, all the basics, right? But that second semester, they really start to hone in on what you want to do, right? So if you want to do investment banking, if you want to do management consulting, there's immersions that really give you the ins and outs of what the inner workings of what that looks like. And for me, I knew that I didn't want to do those two things, but I still wanted to maximize my opportunity. So they have a customized immersion, and this customized immersion allows you to be creative, customized, like you kind of dabble in any space. And that allowed me to connect with Alex in the real estate school. So I was like, all right, I want to do real estate. I want to be a developer. My plan to get there is to master my finance and then master real estate component. So I tapped in with the Baker School, which is a well-renowned school when it comes to real estate. And I started asking as many questions and having meetings with people to say, all right, what are the courses that make sense for what I want to do over the long haul? And that allowed me to connect with them. I ended up becoming like the co-president of the real estate club between the two schools. So I partner with a Baker student that manages speaker series, student-led treks that we go to New York City, and we meet different industry executives to learn more about the space and learn more about the different parties that are participants within the development space and real estate in general. So when I tell you the opportunities are endless, once you get to the school, it's just about initiative. And that's one of the things that when I met with Eddie, that's what I took out of it. So he wasn't necessarily saying, hey, if you get here, you're going to have an advisor that shows you how to get to a real estate developer, but it does provide the platform for you to figure it out. And most of the people that come to business school tend to be very intellectually inquisitive. Like they ask a lot of questions, they get to the bottom line, and they find a strategy to achieve what they want. So that has been my approach.
That is a really fantastic answer, and I bet a lot of people in our audience are really excited to hear about that. I mean, in a previous life, I used to be a real estate agent in New York, and now here I am running my own admissions consulting business. I think I'm gonna bring you on as a mentor, Albert. But those of us in the MBA world, those of us who are admissions consultants, we often talk about finding the right fit. So important. As we've just heard, sometimes an MBA is the right vehicle to get you to where you want to go professionally. Sometimes it could be a specialized master's, just like what Alex has done. It might be an executive MBA or something totally different, like an MPA or a PhD. I mean, who knows? But that said, there are tons of fantastic MBA programs out there. Each of them has their own unique flavor, though, of delivering the nuts and bolts of an MBA. And I think a lot of it comes down to culture. So I'm looking to Eddie first to lead off, and then the rest of you can chime in, I think would be the good way to do it. Could you please tell us about the culture at Cornell's campuses?
Oh, yeah. Oh, so I've as you had mentioned, I've been here for quite some time, and I've just, approached my 11th year anniversary being here at Johnson. And
Congratulations.
What's that?
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. But I will say that honestly, this is such a dynamic community. And the way I look at it is, and candidates ask me all the time, like, what type of student is successful here? Of course, yes, we want someone who's going to do well academically, and someone who's going to be a nice person, things like that. But the word that comes to mind all the time is someone who's selfless. When I think about the MBA and the students here at Johnson, of course, they know that to be successful, they can't do it without each other. I have seen students who, whether it's just, an opportunity to really be able to help each other in the core team experience, whether it's recruiting, whether it is just personal things that someone's going through, how this community truly comes together and to truly support each other. And I think that, with our class size, I believe compared to some of our peers, definitely with our location in Ithaca being an amazing college town that truly, Cornell supports the Ithaca community and vice versa. Those are some of the things that you're going to get within our community, but also some of the things where I feel wonderful about the work that I do is thinking about the support that our administration, our staff, provides to our students. it is an open door policy, and I would say also a true partnership. I've seen many of our students, and and of course, our students and our alums, please jump in about ways of improving this community. And I've been in many conversations, whether it is with the dean or our executive of MBA programs and the director of the career management, center, on how we can improve our program or the admissions process. And a lot of these initiatives have been brought forward by our students, and also with our students, it's more than just saying, this is an area of improvement. It is, hey, here's an area of improvement, but here are also solutions to that. So, I would encourage anyone as you go through this process to make sure that you have those conversations with our admissions team, definitely with our students, definitely with our alums, about how you identify the right fit, whether it is from a recruiting standpoint, whether it is from a location, culture, you name it. One of the things that I will say is that our students, our alums, are very transparent about their experience. And at the end of the day, we want to make sure that you are identifying what the best fit is for you, because this is, a huge investment financially, but then also 2 years as well. So I'll stop there. I'll let I'm looking at Steph right now, through the screen, because I know that Steph has been a huge part of our student leadership, before she graduated. So Steph, I'll hand it over to you, because I'm sure you had something to share there.
I have so much to say. I think that's the problem. But to Eddie's point, I've worked a lot with his team, a lot with other areas of leadership at Johnson, to kind of talk about, what we're doing well, what can we do better, what are some solutions. But what I really want to kind of tap into was something Eddie mentioned in the beginning, which is the culture and community of being selfless. Eric, to your point, kind of trying to find that fit and trying to find that culture. One of the biggest pieces of advice that I got that I thought was very fitting, actually, from one of my favorite professors at Johnson, Ursa Mish. She said, always ask for specific examples, right? When you're talking to alumni, when you're talking to admissions, when you're talking to students, ask for specific examples of what culture looks like. And so I do want to share one example that will always be top of mind for me. So I already knew this about Johnson culture before I started. And when I first came and moved to Ithaca, it was about probably like 2 weeks before preterm started. We had a group of international students coming in where half of them missed the second leg of their flight due to delays, which meant that the second half of the group of students were arriving with everybody's luggage. And so getting on a bus to Ithaca from New York, carrying everybody's things. And so we had a Slack channel already set up. And one of them actually dropped a message and said, hey, we're in this situation, explained what was going on. Would anybody be able to help us get all our things into a specific location? And there were maybe 5 to 10 people that immediately jumped in and said, absolutely, we'll come help you. And imagine that these people have never met before, right? They have no idea who the person is on the other side. They have no idea, how much luggage they all even have, but they were so willing to help and jump in. And that was what I discovered during my conversations with alumni, with students, with admissions, with professors before I even started, and was very much evident, not just in that example, but throughout my entire experience at Johnson. So the culture at Johnson is absolutely incredible in that manner. It truly is a culture of selflessness, and something that really made me feel like I belonged on this campus.
I want to chime in a little bit too as well. I think one of the things that, if you could take away one phrase that Eddie kind of mentioned, he said that it's very student led. And I want that to be kind of like highlighted through this. So when you think of when you're coming in and you're connecting with the first years, the second years, those are the individuals that'll be the leaders of the clubs that you'll participate in. They'll probably lead the treks that you'll do when you travel internationally. So from a cultural standpoint, it's it's a lot of initiative on the students to kind of run with, whether you have an idea, you want to do a fundraiser, you want to raise capital for organization that you're interested in, you kind of have to do the necessary homework. But it's a really great thing in terms of building leadership, which is another part of the experience as an MBA as well. And one of the things that I kind of stressed was, a selling point for me, is to be able to look at opportunities and see how you can solve the problem and provide the leadership during that time period. So I definitely think student-led is another part of the culture that is extremely important.
Anyone else want to chime in with some examples?
Yeah, I could totally jump in, and I could talk forever. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna really try to like condense it here. So if I had to say something about the culture, it's like, again, remember I started off with kind of like showing love and getting love back from Cornell. And part of that is like you being intentional. A lot of people are going to say getting an MBA, go into your MBA program, be intentional about it. The thing is, at Cornell, don't be afraid to kind of like fail or just talk about things that you might find interesting or exciting or what matters to you. What matters to me? Education. What matters to me? Diversity. What matters to me? Helping people, being, sort of like a mentee or et cetera, right? So I remember I went to Eddie's office, I think, and it is an open door policy. Eddie can tell you, I pop my head in there just for no reason. And I'm just like, man, great to see you. You make me happy. See you later. And one of those, I told him, I was like, I'm Latino, I'm first generation college student, first generation American. And part of like what's interesting to me, like what excites me is trying to help people behind me, like the next generation, et cetera. And one of the major diversity programs at Cornell, like a recruiting event and around MBA admissions, is the Johnson Means Business, JMB. So I went to JMB myself, like for like the weekend one time. And now I was able to kind of just tell Eddie, hey, Eddie, I really want to be a part of this. Like, I want to make the same experience that I was given, that same love that I felt, that I learned about the academics here, that I learned about my other peers or my other professors that I'm going to be able to meet. I want to help create that experience too. So what happened? And he's like, okay, let me see. And a few, moments later, I was on the JMB committee. And it's sort of like things like that you're able to kind of, to Albert's point, it's like student led. But it's also like you have to just go out there and don't be afraid to just tell people what it is that you love, and it might be cheesy, but just talk about things that you're passionate about, that you love, and the school will have clubs for you. It will have classes for you. It will have peers for you. And long story short, I love singing. Guess what? I ended up like working for the summer at a hedge fund, and at night I'm practicing my singing so I could audition for the Cornell chorus, basically. So then my last year I ended up being a tenor with this like world famous, 150-year-old tradition of like the Cornell chorus. So it's everything and anything in between, honestly.
So let me add. So what I think is really important, and it's like a common thread between everything that we're saying, is like this level of like being completely honest with yourself and authentic and reflective of who you want to be and who you like, whether that's skills you want to gain in those 2 years, whether that's the people you want to gain in the experiences you want to gain. Be honest with yourself coming into that business school experience, because that is what's going to distinguish you when you have your conversations, at Sage Hall with other people, and you're saying, hey, I'm passionate about entrepreneurship, I'm passionate about mentorship. They can provide opportunities. They say, hey, I know this individual that works here. Oh, you need to talk to Eddie. Oh, you need to talk to this individual. They can get you funding. But you got to be transparent and honest with yourself when it comes to that, because that is what will help you stand out for sure. And I think that that's something that you should take into your application as well.
100%. I think you're also ready to be an admissions consultant, because what you're talking about is basically what I find myself saying all the time. And I know Bara and Krithika are too. It's about being authentic, putting your authentic self forward. And that's how you're going to find your people and your tribe. And like that, your future business school is part of that tribe, Amazing. Thank you guys all for those.
So maybe we have like a moment for Alex's tenor at the end. So that you can.
I mean, I'd be happy to. We were banging out Hayden music. We were doing classical music. We're doing everything you could possibly think of. But we had a couple concerts. Like it's great. Honestly, you can do anything you want at Cornell.
Okay, you have to let us know when the next concert is.
And returning to you, I know that you have the title of the Executive Director of Admissions and Scholarships. So this is a two-part question. The first part is towards the last one, which is the scholarships part. Can you tell us about the scope of your responsibilities and what this scholarships refers to? I'm hoping it refers to the pot of money you're awarding to admitted students.
Yes, absolutely. So as far as the scope of my role, one, I will say that I'm really fortunate to oversee a team of approximately 13 that comprise of our another director of admissions, a director of operations, assistant directors, members from our operations team as well. And of course, within the work that I do in my scope, it is ultimately bringing in the best and the brightest from the two-year class in particular. But the scholarship piece, yes. So I do oversee the scholarship piece. And, you will see on our website and in various conversations that you have, our scholarships are merit-based scholarships. So ultimately based off of the quality of your overall application, as well as the competitiveness of the overall applicant pool. So scholarships, I would say, of course, when you're thinking about that, really take your time, put your best foot forward. I think the biggest misconception from an admission side of being admitted as well as scholarship is that I have to have the highest GPA, I have to have the highest GMAT, and that's far from the truth. Know that, when it comes to merit-based scholarships, we're looking at the whole package. I'm looking at, career progression. And career progression, when looking at that, it doesn't mean, just based off of title. It means, how are you leading projects and leading teams? And can you really show those accomplishments, achievements on your resume or in the interview? Academics, yes, we do look at academics and to see if you challenge yourself. Consistency of your grades, the competitiveness of your institution, ways that you're making an impact in your community, the overall interview process, what letters your recommenders are saying. And once again, really comparing that to, once again, the quality of the overall pool. Our scholarships range. Our scholarships may range from, let's say, $10,000 per year all the way up to full tuition. And we have various scholarships. There's the Forte Fellowship. There is, for those who may qualify for a consortium, there's a consortium fellowship. There may be just a general merit scholarship or the Ramba Fellowship supporting our LGBTQ plus community. There's other scholarships that are endowed within, maybe an alum's name. And then, of course, yes, there is also the Park Fellowship, which is a 2-year full tuition fellowship with a leadership component to it. So, as you are going through the admissions process, as far as the scholarship piece, know that that is a part of our review process. So there is a question in there if you are interested in being considered for a scholarship or not. I'm sure many people in the majority of our applicant pool will check that off, but know that in the admissions process, you are being considered for one of the various scholarship awards.
That's pretty helpful, good to know. Coming to the other part, and this, probably you can start first, and then, of course, to Alex and Stephanie. Many in our audience are definitely considering Cornell as one of the programs. And when we come to the admissions, we know the essays, impact essay, and there's a small goals essay, which is very particular. What are your suggestions so that people can put their application forward?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, wow. So, of course, I know that the application process is very time intensive, just once again, thinking about these next steps. But once again, I can't stress enough about making sure that you take your time to really do some self-reflecting and to really think about, what we're looking for in the application process. So I'll start with the goals essay. So our goals essay is pretty standard as far as what is your short-term and your long-term goals. There is a fill in the blank portion in the application where you are filling in, the industry, the role, the function, or that you're interested in. But then also we give you the opportunity in paragraph form to elaborate a little bit further on those goals. I'm sure that many on this call are career switchers, or you're just thinking about what those next steps look like. My recommendation is to really continue to have conversations with, family members, friends who might be in that industry, or maybe it is reaching out to our alums or students who are recruiting or have been successful in those areas. So so thinking about the goals essay and the goal statement in particular, I think that's a great way of being able to answer that question. Now, I also understand that your goals might change throughout this process. So we don't hold you to what you exactly said in the application is what you will want, what you're going to eventually end up doing. But once again, I think doing some self-reflecting as far as what your goals are, and hopefully that's what you want to do, so that as we're evaluating you in the application process, we're able to really have a good sense of what your path is, but also how Johnson will be able to help you in those next steps. The impact essay in particular, as I had mentioned before, when I think about the size of our class, when I think about Ithaca as well, this is such an amazing program. And I do believe the type of student who applies to the program are very intentional on the type of program that they're looking for. It's completely different than a larger metropolitan city, but then also some of the programs that have a larger class size. So, think about what makes sense to you, what you're looking for. Once again, going back to the question about fit, but we want to know how you see yourself making an impact within our community. Whether it is, increasing the representation of women into the program, and really working closely with our Women's Management Council. Whether it is, being a leader within our Old Ezra Finance Club, whether it is being a leader within the consortium, or maybe it is being a leader within LABA, which is our Latin American Business Association. The list goes on, being that we have various different clubs and organizations, but also, or maybe there's something that you're currently doing within your community that you see yourself bringing to the Ithaca community as well. So, just knowing a little bit more about our program, how you see yourself being a good fit, but also making an impact in our community is something that, is really important as you start approaching these various essays.
I have a
Stephanie,
question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
do you want to tell us about if your goals changed?
I'm sorry, say that again.
If your goals have changed after you got into the program, and
Yeah, absolutely. Steph, do you want to go ahead and take that?
I am a prime example right here of
Okay.
a person that wrote down a specific goal in mind, and it wasn't the exact path I decided to take moving forward. I do have the same kind of values and the same, end goal in the long term, but I had a specific role within the hospitality and tourism industry selected for my goals, and I'm actually going to take the path going into consulting to start with. But it both taps into my focus on sustainability with the end goal, and so nobody came after me. Eddie did not come knocking on my door when I turned in my when I notified the CMC, the Career Management Center, that my internship was in consulting, and that's what I would do full time. At the end of the day, the school is there to help you, right? And so you do a lot of self-reflection while you're here. And it turned out that, hey, this is still a great path to get to where I want to go, and that's it turned out really great for me in that manner.
And thanks so much for that, Steph. Keep in mind too, once again, for any career switchers out there, or once again, if your path changes between the time you submit the application to when you're in your first year, or there are times where someone goes into their second year and they want to re-recruit. I feel very confident in knowing that we have a team here at Cornell, a team here at Johnson that will help you become successful in whatever area you're looking to go into. You have to also keep in mind that our alums are always looking for ways of giving back. So whether it's just having a conversation with you about their career path, about the industry, about steps that they took to make that career switch, there are so many people who are here to help you. And know that, once the programs start, a lot of that is done with help from our Career Management Center, which are a great team of professionals, many who are coming from the industry. But also there are professional clubs and organizations. Once again, there's the alumni base, but also there are the networks outside of Johnson, the MBA program, other programs within the College of Business, as well as other, top ranked programs here at Cornell, where you have the opportunity of really being able to connect with various professionals to really be able to network and then ultimately land the job that is your dream job.
Can I add to that? So I think another thing that I think is really, really important, because you mentioned the network, right? So the individuals that you're meeting with, they essentially will help you stitch together your passions, right? So when you have these conversations and they talk through their journey, through that you should be identifying and noticing, okay, this is how they connected their passion here and how it connected the dots here and then inspired them to do this. And then that, I think, is the linkages that you need to show in your essays, show in your interviews, show in your experiences leading up to that. Because because you're going to come in and you're going to be able to see, you're going to be exposed to so much when you get here, when you get to the MBA. And that's going to open up, I didn't know I could do this. I didn't know I could do that. But if you have that core passion, that core center, you always can make accommodations, audibles. And I think that's the beauty in the journeys that you hear when you have conversations with people that either were MBAs or alumni. That's what you want to take away from each coffee chat, each meeting you meet with people, because ultimately you want to be an incredible storyteller when you come out of this, right? Like you want to be able to tell how your journey makes sense, because everyone's going to ask you, why'd you get your MBA? Why'd you do this? And if you could walk them through that story, walk them through that journey, one, they're going to be more inspired. Two, you're going to be more interesting to them. And then they're going to want to have a follow-up with you. So like, those are the things that you should look at when you're coming into this experience. When you write your essay, try to share how all your passions link together and why you are an interesting person and why you should be a part of the community. If you do that, I'm telling you, you're going to stand out. You will stand out.
Truth.
That makes a lot of sense. I want to dial back a little bit. Eddie, you were talking about the GMAT or the testing and how that affects scholarships. But I'm curious about, there's so much talk about standardized testing in general now. We've had GMAC on, we've had ETS on to talk about the changes that are happening. So what is the take now with testing and the application process? And how does that fit into the application to the program?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that, once again, every candidate is so different and how they want to represent themselves in the application process. There are some, of course, that, depending on academic performance before, and they're trying to identify an additional data point by taking a test and, hopefully doing well in that test to really be able to show the committee how serious they are about this program, but also from a quantitative side. But then there are also those that have strong academic backgrounds, strong great certifications out there. Their work experience, really highlights growth and, once again, their accomplishments. And you clearly see it from an admission side, whether a test or not, they can truly handle the rigor of the program. I'm going to give you my personal, thoughts on it, but, and we have moved forward to a test waiver option, process in the admissions process, where I do believe candidates who request the waiver are able to really demonstrate in other ways that from a quantitative side that they can handle the rigor. And right now what we're doing from, a programmatic standpoint is going back to really evaluate those candidates and those students who came into the program with a waiver and how well they did in the core and how well they're doing from a recruiting standpoint. And, I personally, I don't believe that the test represents everyone and how well they will do in the core and how well they will do from a recruiting standpoint. But, once again, I think that it really depends on where you are and if the test makes sense for you to take. I know that from a recruiting standpoint, things may have changed for some firms. I know that a lot of investment banks, consulting firms, used to look at a GMAT. And I know that some of that may have changed over the last couple of years. But if you do feel that that's a data point that is truly helpful to you in the process, I really encourage students to go forward, with submitting a test. But also, if you have that strong background and you're able to demonstrate that in the process, then once again, maybe a waiver is for you. And I tell candidates all the time, the waiver is not for everybody. If I'm at a point where I'm questioning, your academic performance, you don't come from a quantitative background. Once again, there are red flags here and there. You're probably the candidate that might want to take that test. To really be able to show the committee that you're serious about this process, but also as another data point as well. So I hope that helps. I also, let candidates know too, and of course, I'll say it now. I'll say it at the end. I'm always happy to have a half an hour conversation with any candidate regarding their profile, their academics. I'm very transparent as far as my personal recommendations as far as taking a test versus asking for the waiver. But once again, we want to know that you're going to come into this program, that you're going to do, that you're going to be successful. But also keep in mind that we also have a very competitive applicant pool out there. So this is where you need to use your best judgment on if the test makes sense or not.
First of all, Eddie, I got to say, I don't know you that well. I've known you for a few months now, but you have got to be one of the most dedicated people in your field, and I really appreciate that. I'm sure everyone in this room today and future students. So that's great to know. Also good to know that Cornell's really keeping up with the times, because the sands are shifting in higher ed and academia when it comes to standardized testing as well as when it comes to rankings. We're not really going to get into rankings today, but you're quite well positioned, I believe, number 8 on the FT this year. So congratulations on that. Yep. But I want to talk about academics for a moment. And this question is going to go out to each of the current/former students in the room. We do have to keep in mind time. I don't want to go too over. We have a couple more questions to get through, but in a quick way, if you can each answer, I want to ask this. We all know Cornell has some fantastic professors, obviously, and faculty are really at the heart of any degree, of any school. But what are some of your, who are some of your star professors, and what are they working on? What makes them so great? If you can go around the room, if you want to share a quick anecdote about any shout outs you want to mention in the show.
Yeah, I mentioned one earlier today, but Marisa Mish is absolutely one of my absolute favorite professors. She teaches one of our core classes in critical and strategic thinking. But what really stands out to me about her is not just who she is in the classroom, but how she's a mentor outside of the classroom. I've called her up multiple times over the last summer during my internship, leading up to me starting, my full-time job in a month. And it's, to Eddie's point, it truly is kind of an open door policy. And so she really, truly demonstrates how professors are not just a resource in the classroom, but outside of it as well.
Love that. Awesome. Alex, perhaps?
Sure. I have a ton, but man, I started off with so to give you a little background. Basically, my background was for almost 8 to 10 years, I was an investment banker and I was a trader on Wall Street. And I wanted to come back and specifically go and take my family learnings from real estate, my family business from real estate, combine that with my Wall Street experience, and come out as basically a private equity kind of real estate guy. And in order to do that, one of my first professors was Pamela Malton, and she does fixed income. I thought, as a person that worked on Wall Street, that I knew fixed income, and she just broke it down in such a way, and she was very graceful of how she did it. I think she used to work at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, where she was like one of the major economists in government, and it just really kind of just like leveled me down to to kind of like just being a little bit more humble about, wow, I really don't know, all these years, I don't know everything that I thought I knew, right? So you're always constantly learning at Cornell, and you can do that with all of the rock star professors, including the last one that I took was Professor Jarrow, and Professor Jarrow is another like very world-renowned professor that basically worked in the Black-Scholes models days with the original Black-Scholes people. So incredible all-star all around.
So I'm gonna say three. One, piggybacking off of Risa, that's one of my favorite. I mean, unbelievable professor that really gets you thinking about business from a completely different lens. It allows you to be creative, allows you to be thoughtful in her class, and really challenges you to look at things besides the surface, right? To look like maybe two layers behind a person, a situation, a scenario. So I think that was definitely one of my favorite. And then William Smith is great as well because he taught machine learning and data and statistics, and that was a space that it was kind of felt new to me, learning about how I guess data is being utilized in this day and age, and it's becoming so important right now. With machine learning, with AI, to be able to have conversations on a week-to-week basis related to that really challenged me to kind of see the world from a different lens and to see what we were doing and how we could utilize regression models and different models to be able to make determination and decisions for business. So I think that was valuable for me. And then I'm gonna mention one guy who's actually outside of our school, but because we were talking about the linkages between the different schools, Cody Burke is a professor in the Baker School, which is the real estate school, and he actually gave me really great insight when it came to private equity real estate, which I was unaware of, which helped me realize that there's different avenues within the real estate space aside from just being a developer, besides from maybe being like a commercial real estate person, but being able to see that you could actually use it from a finance standpoint, from an investment standpoint, from a capital raising standpoint, which is incredible. So those would be my three professors that stood out to me so far. And it's fun. I'm glad Alex mentioned that because I'm actually taking fixed income next semester, and I'm really looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to that.
You're gonna love it. Two more, please. If you go to Cornell, you have to take General Casey's leadership course. General Casey was like a 2 or 3 star Army general, and he basically sits there and he tells you how to be a boss. And besides that, then I mean, there's plenty of other ones, but General Casey's definitely one of them. And Alan Filipowicz is basically the guy that he teaches a couple classes, but it's all around basically negotiations. And you learn to negotiate because you're going to be doing that for the rest of your life in any C-suite, entrepreneur, whatever it is. Please take that if you can. The seats fill up fast.
Guys, I want to thank each of you for your perspectives. I'm sure all of these people greatly appreciate being shouted out like that. And I'm negotiating right now in the spelling of this person's name. I did my best. Sorry, Filipowicz. But yeah, Krithika, did you want to, or sorry, Bara, do you want to take it away with the next question?
Well, I'm curious about careers, right? Everyone basically takes the risk to quit their job and spend a small fortune doing an MBA. So they want to know what the ROI is. Can you tell us a little bit about the career services at Cornell and what graduates can expect in terms of employment opportunities for the MBA and how you guys support them in that?
From the students or Eddie? Sorry.
I think
from us?
either one is going to be valuable, right? So it's
Okay.
going to be valuable for the people listening to know what you guys went through, and then Eddie to talk about just the logistics of it. So whoever wants to go first.
So I think it's really important to know, like, once you hit campus, you're already starting the recruiting process. So in terms of being proactive, the university in itself is setting up with, companies are coming to the campus and actually having sessions and meeting the students. The students are getting to meet the recruiters really early in the process. And then you also have these events that take place throughout the year that allow you to do recruiting as well, where you go and you travel and you meet these businesses, whether it be at like trade shows or different events throughout the year. So I think that that's really important. And then career services is integrated in your first semester. They're a part of like the kind of like the preparing for our leadership course. You're like tapped in with the career service as well. And they're providing access to resources on a week-to-week basis. So like every Wednesday for like the first semester, you would have sessions related to recruiting and how to prep and prepare for your interviews, how to set up coffee chats, how to get those things kind of situated. I think that kind of like transparency and that open door policy, you can always walk into our second floor in Sage Hall and be able to speak to someone from career services to tell them about what you're trying to do. So I think if you're willing, like I mentioned, it's always going to be on you. You have to take initiative, but if you're willing to do that, the opportunities are endless and they have the support necessary.
Anyone else want to say about the ROI or what experience you've had? Eddie, you want to jump in and talk a little bit about the?
Yeah, once again, I can't stress enough about the support that our community provides to our students. And once again, the Career Management Center has done a phenomenal job of preparing our students in so many different areas and helping with our early recruitment opportunities, if that's an option. If there are, different conferences, throughout the year, once again, trying to be able to connect our students with, various professionals, whether it's at Johnson or whether it's at Cornell. But once again, I think the biggest thing about the recruiting side of it is just know that there's there's a dedication side of things. I think our students will tell you too, not every student will find their job through the Career Management Center, but, as I had mentioned before, whether it is professional clubs and organizations, whether it is just independent searches that you're doing, but just knowing that there is the guidance out there. When I think about the ROI, in particular, I ask our students and I ask our alums all the time, and I look back at, the transitions that some of our alums have made and how the MBA has really been able to add value, not only from a compensation side of things where I think our students are doing very well, but from a networking side of things, I've seen alums come back and want to make a career switch even after the MBA and know that there is an advisor who actually helps our alums within the Career Management Center to come back and look at new opportunities or providing that support in those networks as well. But once again, no matter what direction you're going into, and you can look at placement online on our website. Our students do very well, and I do think that the return on investment is worth it for an MBA, in particular, a Cornell MBA.
Well, let me add one more thing too. So in your first year, you come in, you work with a career working group, which is like a second year MBA student that kind of helps coach you through the recruiting process and also provides you access to job opportunities. So they'll help you say, hey, if you want to go in this space, this is maybe what you need to do. And you have a second year that's walking you through that whole entire process, whether it be questions you have related to, how should I respond to this recruiter? Should I be thinking about salary? Like what parts of your recruiting process you kind of may have hiccups on? You'll have a career working group, and it's usually consisted of 2 to 3 second-year MBAs to help coach you through that. So I think that's also important to incorporate in there too. And that's like free of charge. Like that's just them trying to improve their leadership skills while also giving back to the community.
Thanks, Albert. Guys, we're really getting down to the end of it. I don't want to go too much over. There was a question I did want to ask about the alumni network. And actually, the three of you, current or former students have answered most of those questions already and just embody what the Cornell alumni are all about. But just really quickly, could you just cite some specific examples of what alumni services exist? Maybe like a lifetime of learning thing or ongoing services for alumni. Our audience would really like to hear about that, perhaps.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and jump in. So our alumni affairs and development team is also a great group to work with. And they start really early working with our MBAs about the various resources that are available. So know that there are various different alumni chapters all over the world. And you can find some of those actually on our johnson.cornell.edu website. Top right-hand corner, it says alums. And you can see who some of the presidents are, locations, etc. And I know that a lot of the different clubs and organizations within that specific region will get together and host various social events, workshops. There is every year we have a big event called the Big Red Bash that happens primarily in New York City. That brings all of our alums, our faculty, staff together to recognize various alums and to really be able to connect. As I had mentioned before, from a recruiting standpoint, our alums are always looking to give back. So they work with our alumni affairs team, our career management center, to not only come back to recruit our students, but also there are projects, whether it's through the immersion, whether it's, just projects through the intensives where they are looking to identify specific projects for our students to work on. Of course, from a funding standpoint, there are various ways that they give back, et cetera. So know that our alumni affairs and development team is always, working with our community and our alums to find ways to give back. But also, and the last thing that I'll say, of course, being in admissions, our alums are always finding out ways to join us for events like this from a virtual standpoint, from an in-person standpoint, to help us bring in the next, best class. So our alums are phenomenal. Our students are phenomenal. So please find ways of connecting with them throughout your journey.
Just to put a bow on that from an actual alum, very recent alum, I'll tell you, when I first started, I did the MBA trek. I went to Italy. The European chapter of Cornell basically put together a red carpet event for us while we were in Italy, touring around and doing our study and wine tours and everything. And we were able to experience, Michelin star restaurants, going to one of the largest private real estate landowners in Italy. He's basically a Cornell alum, the Mariani family. And then they basically took us to I think it was the Ritz-Carlton for an overlap where we were showcased as MBA students. So this is all done through the Cornell alumni. And then just recently, this past 4 or 5 days ago, I happened to show up to Martha's Vineyard for a annual Cornell event. At that event, it was last minute. I had no idea. It was my first time in Martha's Vineyard. Everything was thousands of dollars. So I was going to go stay at a hostel. I happened to talk to the person that was hosting the event, who happened to be a Cornell trustee. And that person let me stay in their home on Martha's Vineyard for the past week. It's a powerful network. It's number one.
And Alex, you sound like somebody who knows how to network. Thank you all for these answers. We're gonna wrap this up. I know Krithika has a quick bonus question just to go around the room real quick to say.
Yeah, so, as you all know, I work with a lot of international students who can't make it to Ithaca. So if you can all tell about what you love about Ithaca in one word or one line quickly, so that they can know more about it.
Hiking. It's a lot of places where you can do some hiking, outdoor things, kayaking. That's one of my favorite things to do. So that was exciting. So that would be the one thing.
Yeah, I was an inner city kid all of my life. I was always in the city. So going out there, I fell in love with it. Finger Lakes regions, wineries all over the place. And if you really want to find out where the good things are at, just follow our mascot, the big red bear. His name is Touchdown. He's always at every ribbon cutting event or every sports event. You're going to love it.
And then when I think of just Ithaca, I think about also just not only being in wine country, but the waterfalls, beautiful waterfalls, gorgeous on the campus, surrounding areas. We're right on the lake. So I can keep going, but I know we're out of time. So
the Finger Lakes region is truly beautiful. Guys, I want to thank you all so much. Eddie, Albert, Alex, Stephanie, who's left already. Did I forget anybody? No. Of course, Bara and Krithika for co-hosting the show with me. This has been fantastic with Cornell. Obviously, you've all noticed the website on the bottom there. If you have any more questions, that's your first place to go to find out, the next information session, open house events, and so forth. Eddie has clearly got an open door and makes time for anyone who's got some good questions to ask. And once again, if you like this episode, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to MBA Waves on our YouTube channel to stay in touch with all the top business schools around the world. Get lots of great free advice. And for our upcoming schedule, check us out at mbawaves.com. Thanks very much and have a good day. Bye-bye.